Life Sentence in Solitary. Stories from ADX Florence. The cell door slams shut with a metallic thunder, and the sound echoes like a gunshot through the concrete walls. Inside, a man sits alone, his eyes darting to the single slit of a window, no bigger than a hand. He's been here for years. No voices, no touch, just silence. They call this place the Alcatraz of the Rockies, ADX Florence, America's toughest prison. And this inmate isn't doing 5 years or even 20. He's serving a life sentence in solitary confinement. No freedom, no hope, just 4 gray walls that never change. But here's the shocking part. After more than a decade in isolation, he starts talking to shadows. He swears he hears voices whispering at night. Guards say they've caught him holding full conversations with no one. And then, one night, the cameras catch him carving something on the wall with his own fingernails. A message that chills even the toughest officers. It reads, "They're still watching me." Now the question is, who is they? Was it paranoia from years in the box? Or was someone really haunting him in the silence? The story doesn't start here, though. To understand how a man can lose his mind inside America's most secure prison, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to the day he first stepped into ADX Florence. The transport van pulled up to the gates, surrounded by armed escorts. He wasn't just another criminal. He was dangerous enough to earn a permanent place in the nation's harshest solitary wing. Shackled at the wrists, ankles, and waist, he shuffled into the prison where no one escapes. The guards didn't even look at him as a man. They treated him like a package to be delivered. At first, he thought he could handle it. A small cell, a thin mattress, and 23 hours a day alone. 1 hour in a cage outside, if he behaved. But days turned into months, and the silence began to eat at him. His world shrank to 10 steps forward, 10 steps back. The smell of bleach and steel never left. And the worst part wasn't the walls. It was the sound of nothing. Pure, heavy nothing. Then came the first crack. Late at night, he swore he heard footsteps outside his cell. But the cameras showed no one. A guard told him it was just the building settling. But when he woke up the next morning, a tiny piece of paper had been slid under his door. No one admitted to it. No one explained it. The note said only 3 words. Don't trust them. He stared at the note for hours, his heart racing in the stillness of the cell. Don't trust them. But who was them? The guards. The other inmates hidden behind concrete walls he couldn't see. Or maybe his own mind, cracking from the silence. At first, he thought it was a prank. Maybe a guard slid it under just to mess with him. But the longer he stared, the more the words dug into him. He stopped eating for 2 days, convinced the food tray being passed through the slot was poisoned. He pushed his tray back untouched, whispering, "I'm not stupid. You won't get me." That was when the lows set in. Weeks passed with nothing but the same cold meals, the same routine. Wake up, count, shower in chains, back into the box. He felt his body weaken, his muscles shrinking from lack of movement. Even the hour of recreation in the steel cage outside didn't feel real anymore. The sky looked like a painting above razor wire. Birds flew past, but never close. He began to wonder if freedom was just a memory. But then came the next shock. One night during count, a guard stopped at his door and said something no one ever says in ADX Florence. The guard whispered, "You're not supposed to be here forever." Then he walked away, leaving the inmate frozen in silence. The words echoed in his head. Not supposed to be here forever. What did that mean? Was it a mistake in his sentence? Was there someone on the outside trying to pull strings? Or was the guard just playing a cruel trick on a man already losing his grip on reality? That night, he couldn't sleep. He pressed his ear against the cold steel door, straining to hear any other words, any clue. Hours passed, nothing but silence, until he suddenly heard scratching. Not from his cell, but from the wall right beside him. Slow, deliberate scratching. Another inmate, carving something on the other side of the wall. The next morning, he saw it. Tiny grooves etched into his wall, letters scratched deep with stone or metal. They spelled a single word: run. He pressed his fingers against the letters carved into the concrete. The word was jagged, raw, almost desperate. Run. But how? In ADX Florence, escape was not just impossible. It was a fantasy. Every hallway was steel and cameras. Every door controlled remotely. Every step watched. Still, that single word ate at him. Who carved it? The inmate next door? Or was it carved years before he even arrived? A warning from someone who never made it out. Days dragged by, but now every sound carried weight. The hum of the ventilation, the shuffle of boots during count, even the clank of food trays sliding through the slots. It all felt coded, like secret signals. He became obsessed with finding patterns. Then came the quiet lull again. Weeks of the same gray monotony. He counted cracks in the ceiling, whispered to himself to hear a voice, and scratched marks into the wall to keep track of days. Nothing changed, until one morning, something did. When his breakfast tray slid into the cell, it wasn't the same as usual. On top of the cold oatmeal sat a folded napkin. The guards never gave extras. His hand shook as he opened it, expecting another message. But what he saw chilled him far more. Inside the napkin was a small piece of metal, a sharpened screw about the length of his finger. He froze. Was this a setup? A trap to catch him with contraband? If the guards found it, he'd lose even the tiny privileges he had left. But if it was real, if someone had actually slipped him a tool inside America's most secure prison, then it meant something bigger was happening. He hid it under his mattress, his mind racing. Someone wanted him to act. Someone wanted him to believe escape, or at least survival, was possible. That night, as the lights dimmed and the prison sank into its strange humming silence, he lay awake with the sharpened screw clutched in his hand. Then it happened. From somewhere deep in the cell block, a scream tore through the air. Not just any scream, it was a guard's. The sound of radios crackled, boots thundered down the hall, and the steel doors of the unit slammed shut one by one. Something violent was happening inside ADX Florence, and for the first time, he realized. Maybe run wasn't a warning. Maybe it was a countdown. The scream echoed through the cell block, bouncing off the concrete until it felt like it was inside his head. Then came the alarms, red lights flashing, sirens blaring, and guards shouting orders. He gripped the sharpened screw in his hand, his knuckles white. This was it. Something had snapped inside ADX Florence. But before he could move, the steel door behind him slammed shut. A dozen red dots lit up his chest. Armed guards surrounded him, shouting commands. He dropped the screw, his knees buckling. And just like that, it was over. They dragged him back into the cell. For days he tried to explain. The note, the carving, the metal, the open door. But no one believed him. To the prison, he was just another inmate losing his mind in solitary. His punishment was swift. The sharpened screw, the open door. Official reports said he made it all up. The records would show nothing unusual ever happened. And his new reality? A permanent place in the deepest part of ADX Florence, where the lights never change and no one speaks. A life sentence in solitary. And the haunting truth? No one will ever know if the messages, the whispers, and the open door were real, or if the silence of America's toughest prison had finally destroyed his mind.